that glory?
Oh, Jin. You haven't changed a jot.
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I say she still looks like a young girl?
Reggie, don't I get a kiss? Right? Now, I apologize for hurting you. Please, be kind to me. We were different people then. There, I've been rehearsing that all the past week.
He's upset because he wasn't warned you were coming.
I'm not upset.
Oh, Reg.
And that is a clip from Quartet. It's a new movie. It's directed by Mr. Dustin Hoffman, who joins us now. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. Is it true you missed your lunch to do this interview?
No, I actually asked if I could forego lunch because when you do these things, you just kind of get, I better not answer that question any further.
Well, no, I'm intrigued now. Why
Once they start, that's called junkets.
Yes, I realize that, yes.
And it's aptly named because, you're just going one after the other. And once you break, you might as well pass out. So it's best just to do it
Okay,
straight
well, look,
through.
okay. Right, well...
But you're the last one, so already I'm enjoying you more than anyone else.
Well, I'm gonna start with a listener's question, and this will be a question which I don't think you've been asked before, and it will make it a memorable interview for everybody. Okay?
All right.
Comes from a woman called Caroline Collett, who says, in 1978, when you were filming Agatha in my hometown of Harrogate, you insisted on a kiss in exchange for an autograph, which I thought was a fair price. Sadly, I lost my autograph book during an over-enthusiastic clear-out years later. Now that I'm 50, will the same bargain hold?
Yes, but thank God you didn't lose your virginity.
There you go. Instantaneously, a memorable moment.
Yes.
So let's talk about... You tell us about Quartet, your first directorial picture. Take it away, Mr. Hoffman. Tell us about your quartet and the story you're telling us here.
Well, Ron Harwood wrote this, and I asked him when I met him. It was originally his play, and then he turned it into a screenplay. And I asked him what the impetus for it was, and he said he had seen a documentary called Tosca's Kiss, which today anyone can get anything, so I would imagine that the listeners can Google it in some fashion. It's about a 45-minute documentary made in 1983, and Verdi was very wealthy, obviously, and successful composer, and at one point he built a mansion for himself, and it turned out to be just a few years before his death, and he stipulated in his will that when he died he wanted opera singers, retired opera singers, and and musicians who could no longer afford decent housing to be able to live in his mansion. And he knew that these were people that at one time had played La Scala, but had fallen on hard times years later. This institution still exists. It's called House of Verdi, and you can Google it. It's in Milan. And I saw the documentary after Ron Harwood suggested to me that I should, and that's what this film is based on. Retired opera singers, retired musicians who live together in this exclusive retirement home, which is certainly nothing like what we think of as old age homes.
It is, and the quartet of the title: Tom Courtenay, Billy Connolly, Pauline Collins, Maggie Smith. What an astonishing! I mean, I haven't mentioned Michael Gambon, who's also here, but what an extraordinary cast you've got.
Yes, and I can't take credit for it because there was another director. Well, to go back a little further, Ron Harwood wrote a play called The Dresser, which they later made into a film. And in that was Tom Courtenay and Albert Finney. And at that point, Tom Courtenay says, why don't you write something for us? And years later, he came up with Quartet, and Albert was supposed to be in that as well, but he wasn't up to it. So when I came on the project, a director had already fallen out. In fact, it'll be 3 years this December since I first read the script. And Tom Courtenay was attached, Maggie Smith was attached, and I had to find someone for the Albert Finney part and for the other lead female, which is the Pauline Collins part. when I was in Los Angeles doing a series, so I spoke to people involved with the project, including Maggie Smith, by telephone. And when I talked to Maggie, who was in London, I said, because good actors know good actors, who would you suggest for the part of Sissy? And without missing a beat, she said Pauline Collins. And I had not seen Shirley Valentine, so I went to see it. And then there was a Woody Allen film that she was in, and I thought she was, not only an extraordinary actress, but very right for the part. So I can't take credit for certainly the star casting. What I can claim some credit to is that after I read the script, and after I saw the documentary Tosca's Kiss, I said, for me to direct it, there's only one way I feel I can have a chance of doing a good job, and that is if we hire real retired opera singers and actual retired musicians instead of actors. And I was allowed to do that. And Lucy Bevan, who was this masterful casting agent, scoured the countryside, God knows, and came up with the people that you see on screen. And I just want to add that it was what made the film an extraordinary experience for all of us, whether we're in front of the camera or behind it. And that is that these gifted people that are on the screen, whether they are musicians or singers, no one had rung their phone for 30, 40 years. Yes. And yet talent, remains in them. Ronnie Hughes plays jazz trumpet in the film, and that's them, by the way, in the film. They are all doing their own singing, their own instrumental playing. There's no fakery. And Ronnie Hughes is a jazz trumpet player, and I had happened to see a little gig that he did at the time. He got some minor thing, and Lucy Bevan, the casting agent, sent it to me, and I said, wow, this guy's got his chops still, and which he does. And for whatever mysterious reason there is, whether it's America or England or maybe anywhere, people become recyclable, if you will, after they reach a certain age, and no one calls them, even if they can still deliver in the way they've been doing it all their lives. And I think the film wants to celebrate the fact that we are somehow dismissing a vital part of our culture.
Why have you waited so long, Dustin, until you directed?
I don't have an easy answer, because I certainly wanted to do it even when I started studying acting. I used to direct fellow actors in scenes they were doing in class. I always thought, well, maybe I'll just be a director. And if I didn't get anywhere acting, I thought by the time I hit 30, I'd turn to directing or whatever else, or even teaching. I guess it's my demons, and I never met anyone who doesn't have demons, except leading men.
You have worked with some astonishing directors over the years. I wonder if you learnt from them and you absorbed that, and it became the sort of director that you were. I mean, we have Billy Connolly said that you direct like an actor. You know every actor's weakness and you know everyone's strengths. Michael Gambon said you don't fuss a lot. I don't know, it was, you started work in 61. This is a lot of experience coming through.
Well, I know certain things that other actors know, and that is that in a sense it's a bastard art form. We have no control. I mean, on stage you do, because you rehearse on stage, and then once a play opens, you're live in front of an audience, and you go from beginning to end, and you control your performance. On film, you're working out of context every day. You could be doing the beginning at the end of the film. You could be shooting the end at the beginning. Nothing is, you're shooting all the interiors at once, all the exteriors, so it's all so that it's set up to spend the least amount of money. And you have a director, and the director is telling you what he or she wants, and the demand is that you have to give them what they want. And if you're not a star, you get fired. If you're a star, then you can argue for a while. But ultimately, you're not in the cutting room, and you learn just from self-preservation over the years not to trust directors, just unless you find one that you feel you can trust. Meaning, does this director have the same sense of truth that I like to think I have? Are they asking me to do something that really is fraudulent, that's false, that's not organic to the scene, and yet you have to do it because they want it, even if they say, don't worry, we won't use it if it's no good. But that's their taste. And I contend that no actor should ever be bad in film because they're not cutting their performance. If there's a bad scene, they put the camera on the clock at that moment. And if they're really bad, fire them and get someone else. An actor, a good actor, knows the difference. Unfortunately, we're locked out of the cutting room. And I think that's one of the things that the cast that I worked with recognized, and that was that, I wasn't going to ask them to do anything that seemed, well, the best way to put it is to see that seemed like work. Yeah. Because what you do in rehearsal is you work to get to a point where it's effortless.
And I wonder, just finally, Dustin, I wonder if, I think many years ago you wanted to be a jazz pianist. I wondered if there was something of the musician in you that was really loving being amongst these people.
Well, you hit it on the head. What we used to do between takes, and I heard they made a documentary while we were shooting. The still photographer was also shooting documentary footage, and many times I sat down and played piano while Ronnie Hughes' trumpet was playing trumpet, and it's a thrill for me to be able to sit in with real musicians. I've said for years and years and years, and I'll say it right now, if God were to just tap me on the shoulder and say, okay, you can be what you never had enough talent for, you could be a first-rate or even second-rate jazz piano player, so be it from this moment on, but you're not allowed to act or direct anymore. I'd take it in a minute.
Would you like to spend your dotage in a home for ex-actors? Would that be something that appeals to you?
No, I maybe if they were women, it might be fun.
Dustin Hoffman, we appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.